Blog Talk Radio.
Hey everybody, it's your girl Honey B. Welcome to GSC Radio Show. Got my co-host online. You guys want to say hi?
Hello, everybody.
What up, everybody?
That was Kenya, Jabril, and Clint on the line. Just want to welcome you guys to the show. You guys can call in. Our phone number is 657-383-112. 1155. You can also check out our website, gftradioshow.com. If you're listening right now, then you're probably on blogtalkradio.com/gftradioshow.com. We want to thank you for listening. Tonight's show is basically trending topics in social media. And we're going to talk about a couple of things that popped out in our heads for this week. So, kick this off real quick. Kenya, you want to let them know what you want to talk about?
Sure. I am going to start off tonight's show with some discipline in the school system. I feel like as of lately, we have seen so many examples of there either being an issue with the students in class or officers that are dealing with the students and how they should be dealing with them, or who's at fault. You know, are the kids stepping out of line? Are the adults or the teachers stepping out of line? So I wanted to start with that. Here recently, like I said, it just seems to be popping up everywhere, and for me, it's mind blowing. I've seen instances where the children were in the wrong, and then I've seen instances where the adults have, should have exercised better judgment. I remember the video where a male resource officer was asked to assist, I believe it was in South Carolina, in removing a young lady from the class due to her being disruptive. Now, while I have a huge appreciation and admiration for teachers and the nonsense that they sometimes have to deal with on a daily basis with some of the misbehaved children, I also have a huge issue with a man handling a child like a rag doll because she refuses to leave. I don't think he would have been in the wrong to remove her because that's what he was there for. But I remember when we were younger, and I remember seeing teachers, like, if you wouldn't get up, they would pull your desk out of the class into the hallway and shut the door. Just an example. But this man dragged her out of the chair. I think she was still in the chair. Just the whole thing fell over, threw her to the ground, and it was just too much for me. Was she wrong? Absolutely. But my whole thing in that was that he's a man. And I was wondering where the females were in the school, be it a teacher or a female resource officer or a disciplinarian or anything that could have assisted in moving a female from the room. So resource officers, for those of you who don't know what that is, they are there to police the school and keep things safe, but they're also supposed to build relationships with students to counter their behavior in crisis situations. I know for me, I went to Trent Central High School, and there was not a single officer at Trent High that I didn't know, didn't have a rapport with, and didn't respect enough that if something happened, who didn't calmly resolve a situation or couldn't calm me down. But I feel like it is also a matter of respect on both ends, and it just seems like the younger generation, they're entitled to everything, or that's at least the attitudes that they have, and they just seem to be out of control. Another example was, I think this was last week, there was an officer in the school in Chicago who decided that it was okay for him to handcuff a 6-year-old girl underneath a stairwell in the dark. Wow. Because she took candy from a teacher, and he thought it was okay because he was, quote, teaching her a lesson, end quote. It is my opinion that it is not his job to teach her a lesson. I don't think it's any teacher's job to teach a child a lesson. You need to involve the parent. And also the last one, I'm not sure where this was. I thought it was actually here in the DMV, but I'm not sure, so don't quote me. The male teacher that was approached by the other male students, they looked to be almost the same height, but the male student kept getting in his face, and you could clearly see the rest of the class is extremely disruptive, and he's asking this young man to leave the class. Well, the young man is bucking in his face, he's threatening him, and then he attacks him. The teacher didn't hit him. He grabbed him to restrain him because he attacked him, and now the parents are calling for him to be fired. I just don't see where it is that he was wrong, but then there's also instances where you're wondering how far do these parents expect these teachers, like how much do they expect them to deal with before, they go off. I mean, we're all human, and if your child thinks that it's okay to step up in my face to threaten me and then attack me, and you think I'm wrong for reacting, that's crazy. I understand that they're all adults. I get that. But then I'm not being paid to allow your kid, this starts at home, to come into my classroom and not only be disrespectful, but then they're perfectly fine with attacking me. And then you say, oh, he should be fired. So for me, I wanted to bring up this subject because, like I said, it seems to be becoming sort of an epidemic. It's happening everywhere, and there are just instances where, you can say the teacher's wrong, and then there are some times where the kid is wrong. So where do you draw the line? I mean, I know you guys all have children. How do you feel as parents about the subject? In a matter of speaking, should I say, just to be more specific, how would you feel or what would you do if you found out, like the young lady, the young girl that was handcuffed under a stairwell? Sharitha, you have a 3-year-old. Clint, you have a 3 or 4-year-old as well. Jabril, you have children who are younger or older as well. I mean, how would you feel if you got that phone call? Like, yeah, they're cutting up in school, and you get there and find out that he's just pulling your kid out from underneath a dark stairwell, and she's crying, and she's 6 for taking candy.
Definitely don't agree with those methods that are happening right there. I mean, my kids have an understanding or an understanding that you are not to disrespect teachers, administrators, anybody in the school, classmates or anything like that. You have any issues with anything, you bring it up to the proper people. You start with your teacher, and then you go to counselors or principal if you have to. But as far as these resource officers that they have in here now in these schools who are abusing their privilege and things like that, is definitely, it's not even just the resource officers. I mean, you have teachers, you have substitute teachers. These kids come in here and they want to show off and show out because they have a teacher in here that they don't like, or a substitute teacher who's in here who's only there temporary, and they act a fool. Part of it is on the parents and the children. It's not all these teachers are bad for what they're doing. I'm saying you shouldn't be putting your hands on these kids, but I mean sometimes these kids are older than they actually are, and I mean the level of disrespect that they have is definitely not acceptable. Hello.
What? Yeah.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, the level of disrespect that these kids have is unacceptable. And like I say, sometimes these teachers and resource officers are out of control with some of their actions. But 9 times out of 10, I mean, there's not much else that can be done. It's kind of crazy because you see all of these videos, and that's the thing. These kids are quick to pull out their cell phone and start recording. And not saying it's all good and all bad, but we only see a part of what happened. We only see the end result of it when they start fighting. We don't see the disrespect or whatever happened beforehand. To not saying it's justified that these teachers and people are putting their hands on these kids, but we're only catching the back end of it, so it's kind of hard to judge it. But I say it's not acceptable.
I'm gonna is someone calling in?
Do that. Go ahead and continue on. We'll watch the line.
Okay. Well, I'm going to speak from 2 sides of the coin because I was a problem child. I was one of those kids that were causing a lot of problems for class. I was considered a class clown. But as far as my children are concerned, both of I have one that is already she's in her last year of middle school. She doesn't really have a problem, but I would be highly upset if I got a phone call and I got to the school and something like that happened, or my 3-year-old and I got a call and something like that happened. because I would want to know why. Like what I would want to know all the entire detail. I don't want to know half the story. I want to know all sides of the story. I won't necessarily take sides. I just want all the information so I can process and understand and, figure out what I think is true and what I think is false and what I think is a little bit stretched out. But that's pretty much my standpoint on that side. But as a problem child, I was one of those kids who always had a problem with authority. I talked back. I didn't listen when they told me to do stuff. I purposely did things to irritate teachers. And I can say, like back in the day when I was going to school, we didn't videotape everything. So, and I have gotten into altercations, physical altercations with teachers and staff members at school. I say that to say not that it was justified, but in all three different circumstances, different things happened. Whereas one was a teacher got frustrated because he wanted me to sit down while I was sharpening a pencil. I didn't sit down fast enough, so he grabbed me and slammed me against the wall. At that point, like no matter what I did, for him to slam me against the wall was crossing a line, and therefore me and him got into a physical altercation. And I was in grade school. So I say that to say that kids can be annoying, kids can be frustrating, kids can be disrespectful, kids can cross the line and do things wrong. I'm not saying I was right in the situation because what I could have did was just sit down. But no, I wanted to be a smart aleck, so I just stood there, and therefore he decided to get physical and slam me against the wall, which at that point he crossed the line, and that was my child. Like my mom got that call and said, come to school, and then she hears that, and she's mad at me, but then she's mad at him too because we both were wrong. So you have to take accountability, and my mom never did take my side. Officially, she told me that I was wrong and I shouldn't have did this, but it still justified his actions. So you have to kind of get both sides of that story. You guys there?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just my standpoint from that. Like Jabril said, with the video, with the video, kids take out their cell phones and record the video and post them on social media and things of that nature. You don't really get both sides of the story, so it's kind of hard. And when you're in that moment, things tend to happen. And if a kid crosses the line, this is why you have security and things of that nature. But you have to understand that if you as a teacher or a person of authority figure, you step across the line, you have to understand that that's not okay. But then, like I said, the parents have to understand that their kids are problems too.
Yeah, these parents aren't really taking responsibility for they always quick to blame the teachers or whatever. They're not taking responsibility that maybe your kid is just bad and doing stuff he's not supposed to be doing. But hey,
I know.
So it's just this age. So like it's this day and age where everything's on the video, and you don't get full side of the story, and then like once it's out there, like no matter what happened in that situation, once it hits social media, it's up for everybody to have a debate about. This person was wrong because all they see is that one side, not knowing what happened. But that's why you have to be mindful as teachers, as people of authority, that now, even police, now you realize that people are videotaping you. So, you got to watch what you're doing because you can't react like how you normally would react because, you end up on social media and everybody.
Can I play devil's advocate?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can I play devil's advocate for a minute? Because I want to tell it, I had a story when I was in 7th grade, Junior 2. It's called Hedgepeth Williams. We had a teacher. His name is Mr. Bornolino. I'll never forget. He was like a real disciplinarian. He used to scream at the kids, cuss at the kids, everything. You feel me? So the class I was in 7th grade was a wild class. I mean, that class was crazy. It'd be times when we'd all be in the disciplinarian office. You feel me? So I could understand at times when teachers are fed up. You know what I mean? Because you deal with a lot of rowdy kids that don't want to listen. And like y'all said, they don't have no home training. You feel me? And it gets out of control. And sometimes, when the teacher is not getting help from the parents nor from like the principals or whoever is in charge at the school. Sometimes, you know, that's a lot to deal with. You know what I mean? So he, at one point, he got into it with a student. You know what I mean? The student approached him, mind you, like 12, 13. Student approached him, got all in his face. You know what I mean? So we all got sent to like the, and you know, they say we was instigating or whatever. So we all got sent to what they call the op room. And in that op room, when we was in there, you know, you go to lunch last. So when we went to lunch, he told the dude he got into it with, his name was James, to stay. Next thing you know, they pulling us out of the lunchroom. The teacher, Mr. Barleon, Jay, got into a fight in the room. They showed the desk all turned over, everything. You know what I mean? So it was a big old deal. You know, parents had to come in and everything. He never lost his job. You know, he didn't get suspended or nothing. Neither did the student. But that goes to the point, like, when there's no control or at home, then there's no control in the school. It puts you in a position to have a bad situation occur. You know what I mean? As far as, so it's like, with me, it starts at home. Because if it begins there, the respect for your elders, then, you know, when you get to school, it'll be less drama. You know what I mean? Of course, you got other teachers that, you know, just don't care. But at the end of the day, I think it starts with the parents teaching their kids how to act. That's just me.
I agree. Definitely. Hey, you want to add anything else on this?
I do not.
All right, we're going to let Jabril talk about what his topic was for tonight. Jabril?
I wanted to talk about the president's trip to Cuba. Not necessarily in detail with his trip to Cuba, but some of the things surrounding his trip to Cuba. Obama went to Cuba earlier this week, and I was on my way to work earlier this week, and I heard on the radio they were talking about how he just left and he was out there. You know, he had his whole welcome ceremony. This was on Monday, I believe. And at the same time, Monday morning, there was a cop who was shot. Later turned out to be suicide, but there was a cop who died up in North Jersey. And my wouldn't say issue, but my thoughts on this was we have police officers and other law enforcement people who are dying in the United States, and President Obama went to Cuba. Now, I don't know if everybody's familiar, but there is a lady. Her name is Joanne Chesmar, a.k.a. Asada Shakur. She was from New Jersey. Back in the 70s, she shot and killed a state trooper. She was finally caught, and she wound up being convicted, and she was supposed to be sentenced to jail. Well, she wound up escaping jail in, I want to say, the 80s, back in the early 80s. And she broke out of jail. She wound up escaping, and she went to Cuba. Now, Cuba has a no extradition law, so it's not like they were going to find her in Cuba and then make her come back, send her back, because Cuba doesn't have extradition laws. But she's been hiding out there ever since like 1980 something. They know where she is. They know her. You know, she was like the first female to be on the most wanted list. But President Obama is in Cuba. Well, he was in Cuba. You know, just chilling, doing his thing. I mean, yes, it was political, and yes, there was some business to it. But my whole thing is, I don't see how we can have relations with Cuba and, I mean, if anything goes wrong or something like that, all you have to do is run to Cuba and you become a political asylum, and you're free to do whatever you want to. Like I say, I mean, I'm not for or against it, this whole political asylum or anything like that, but my issue is, how do we have somebody who killed a police officer, escaped from prison? I mean, she escaped from prison in the 70s, mid-70s, and wound up not fleeing to Cuba until 1984, I think it was. She's been on the run ever since then. And like I say, they have eyes on her. They know where she is. They know her moves, but there's nothing that can be done because Cuba doesn't have extradition laws. And we have a president who goes over there and conducts business and trying to get the Cuba embargo. They had the whole thing late last year where they kind of lifted the Cuba embargo. You know, you got people talking about they're going to start traveling to Cuba and things like that. And I honestly just don't see any reason, or I don't see what's right with that. I personally have an issue with that. I don't know how you guys feel about that. Like I say, I mean, there's people who are out here applauding Obama's trip to Cuba and saying, oh, it's good relations and things like that. But I personally don't see how that can happen. What do you guys think about that? Whether it's what I talked about or whether you have other opinions about this trip to Cuba.
I think when we talk about Assata Shakur, it's important to note that, you know, all of that with her shooting a cop, that's all alleged. You know, I've been trying to wrap my mind for years around how someone could escape from jail and be gone that long. And it was a while before they even realized she was gone. But then in that era where there was so much going on with Black Americans in the police, much like today, you know, it's hard to believe that what she was arrested for and charged with and later convicted, that it was even true. So that there, like I said, I think it's just important that we note that was alleged.
Yes.
I think that President Obama's visit to Cuba was, you know, just following him being able to open that country back up and allowing us to build that relationship back up. And, of course, that's why he went. At least that's the way I saw it. You know, that it was just we're building, we just decided to go ahead and, you know, renew this relationship. So if I want to renew a relationship with the country, at some point I'm expected to show up. So I wasn't shocked that he went, but I just took it for that, you know, that was the reason he went there. I didn't look too deep into the other things personally, but I mean that's just my take on it.
That's understandable. Like I say, I'm not knocking him for going over there and doing that. Would they have the embargo set back in like the 60s or 70s? I think it was the 60s when they first started that. You know, no trade to Cuba, no stuff in and out, and that was back in the 60s. Like you say, allegedly she was accused of it. There was no, like you say, this is all alleged. She was accused. Like I said, that was back in the 70s. She escaped in 1979, and then back in '84 is when she fled. So yes, there was a big period, a gap in time as to when she escaped and when she actually left. But like I say, I mean, they're tracking her, and that, like I say, I didn't want to make it like, okay, you know, it's just because of that issue, but, you know, I had a whole different take on it. Like, say, some people are applauding, like you say, the whole opening up the country and trying to get the relations better is, it's good, definitely. But that's just my take on that.
I think from what I read, hello? From what I read.
Yeah, go ahead.
From what I read, it said, a couple years ago, Obama said he wouldn't go to Cuba unless, you know, they improve like their human rights and stuff over there. You know, because it's a dictatorship over there. Castro got a dictatorship over there. So, you know, they arrest anybody who speaks out against the government, or who's pro-democracy, you know, because they're more like communists. So, you know, he said if they don't change that, there's no reason for him to go over there. Now, the day he arrived, you know, it's reported that they arrested a couple hundred people who were protesting against, you know, communists. They was more so trying to promote democracy, and they were arrested. You know, beaten, all types of stuff. And, you know, they saying basically people over there who's pro-democracy are upset with Obama. It's because now it's like you went over there, you went against your word, and you basically went to go sleep with the enemy. You know, he's not, because they're not changing nothing. You know, I mean, Obama touched on it in the speech he gave a little speech over there, and he was saying about how, they need to correct the human rights. People should be free to voice their opinion. They should have better internet access so they could be have access to information so their economy can grow and stuff like that. But they're not going to do none of that. So a lot of them was like, now the point of you coming over here was pointless. It was really no point. You set us back. Because they're not going to change their dictatorship over there. So it's multiple perspectives about why he went over there, and whether it was the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do. At the end of the day, I understand he's trying to build relationships, but if they're not going to change anything, what's the point? That's just how I see it. Sarika, you have anything to add?
Well, I don't really have anything to add. I just like I said, I'm basically my thoughts on that is no matter what his attempt or his intent was, I think he's trying to get them to change their ways by going over there and saying what he says. Whether he went back on his word, and said, "Oh, I'm not going to go there if they don't do X, Y, Z." I think at this point he just felt like he needs to go over there just to maybe it'll push it, and I know it won't change overnight, but it's a step towards progress to try to build relationship back with Cuba, and to maybe influence and build that rapport where they can have with the next candidate, preferably somebody saying, can build a bigger relationship with them, and hopefully that'll expand what he was trying to do. So I'm really just hoping that somehow it helps. His visit does help versus it doesn't change anything, My thought on that.
Appreciate that.
Anyone else have anything to talk about regarding our president, our current president?
Not on that subject, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to move right along. I'm sorry, did someone say something?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Oh, well, Clinton, you're up next.
Okay, I wanted to talk about last week. I heard something in the news about Jared Fogle. That's the guy from Subway. He was arrested with child pornography, a lot of stuff like that, So when he was in jail, he's in a minimum security prison, first of all. That's the real issue I want to get to. He was in a minimum security prison, and one of the inmates that was there, he got kind of frustrated with it, with the fact that, why am I in a minimum security prison with a child pornographer, a child molester, whatever? He shouldn't be here. He should be in maximum security. So he, through his frustration, he laid hands on that. He beat Jared up, had him bloodied and everything. My issue is kind of like his. It's like child molesters and getting child pornography, all of that stuff. I believe their penalties should be just as harsh to me as murder. I don't think no child molester, anything, should be in minimum security prison. I think the justice system dropped the ball right there. I don't understand how that happened. I don't know if it was because of his fame or not. I don't have the numbers. I was trying to research the numbers to see, how many of child molesters and stuff actually get sent to minimum security prisons versus maximum security. I think they should be in maximum security prison, and population. You feel me? No protective custody. And I think they should be penalized to the maximum extent of the law, And I think, that situation was bound to happen. Somebody was bound to beat him up. And then it was like it's like a Facebook video where they showed this guy. He was in court. They was in jail, and he murdered his cellmate. And his cellmate was a child molester. You seen that? Yeah, his cellmate was a child molester. Yeah, he was in open court, like, you know, the guy was just talking about it like he ain't mean to do it, and I didn't want to hear it. I told him to shut up, and he just kept talking about it. He he just, you know what I mean, he killed it. You know what I mean, in the cell, you know, and, you know, like, me personally, I don't have, you know, I don't have an issue with that. I think that's one of the most heinous crimes because you're still in innocence from a child, whether it's male, female. Like, you're still in there innocent and scarring them for life. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I know people who's been molested. You know what I mean? I've been close to situations like that, you know, and people aren't the same after that. You know, no matter how much they try to deal with it, cope with it, you know what I mean, therapy, anything, it doesn't change. So I think, you know, when you scar somebody for life like that, your penalty should be just as harsh. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I would have to agree. Yeah, I'm here. I would agree. I think, you know, when I first heard about that, I wondered if, and I'm probably playing devil's advocate with this, you know, comment, but I wondered if they put him in a minimum security prison because they felt some kind of way about what he did. Like, no, we ain't going to protect him. Let's put him somewhere where, you know what, things happen. We don't know what happened to him. You know, that type of thing. So, I mean, I'm thinking, well, you know, what are they so disgusted with him that they wanted to put him somewhere where there was as less protection as possible because they also didn't appreciate what he did? I mean, I wondered that too. But when Clint was talking about numbers, I don't have the exact numbers, but what I do know, having worked in the court system, there are a lot child molesters and rapists that are in minimum security prisons. I don't know if, like, that's literally the first place they go. And unless it's a high-profile case or something like that, if it's a matter of space, they send them to the maximum security prison. I know when I did a paper on this when I was finishing my first master's, and a lot of them, it's about the numbers. You know, if there's too many, because the maximum security prisons cost more money to run daily than the minimum security prisons, they'd rather have too many people until they reach a max in a minimum security prison instead of sending them to, you know, the minimum security instead of the maximum security because it costs more money. So I'm not saying that's the reason why, but I know even having worked, you know, in this line of work, a lot of them, that's the first place they go. I've never understood that. But then you go in there and we're looking at it like Clint said from a point of, you know, the punishment should be harsh. I don't think there's anything harsher than, well, there is. Let me take that back. But if we're talking about just jail time, what's worse than having somebody in a maximum security prison where they have to think about what they did all day long, and most of them prisons, they don't even leave outside their prison. Well, they just sitting in there staring at the wall all day. But you put them in a minimum security prison where they got cable, you know, they can come out and go to the like. Why do you think they have all this freedom?
Yeah, that's my point. Yeah.
That's because it seems very lenient.
Yes. And another issue to add on to that is, like, you know how you have the Megas law and stuff like that where they gotta register and stuff when they come home. Yeah. You know, that doesn't even work. You know, like you can be right. You know what I mean? The child molester or rapist can be living right next door and you not even know when they're supposed to inform you of stuff like that. You know what I mean? So, like, my whole thing on it is, I don't think, you know, you hear it, it's all PC to me, how they talk about how bad it is, this, that, and the third, but they're not handling it as if it's that serious or if it's that evil. Right. You know, like, they're handling it as if it's like a misdemeanor, and that irks me.
Yeah. And like that guy that was down, I don't remember what the name of that school is since we're all from the same city. You know that school that's downtown off of 4th Street, that little Head Start school, little pre-K school down there? I remember somebody saying last year, I think it was, this guy that was a photographer for those kids, the parents were paying for pictures, right? And he was, taking their pictures, and they were paying for the pictures, but then he wasn't bringing them up. So when people started to report him and, make all these claims and everything, they found out that this man was a registered sex offender. And what was crazy about that is one of the girls that I was talking to about, they had called me about what she could do legally in the state. When they're registered that way, every school, every church, every daycare center, every library, all these people are supposed to be notified from the state's attorney's office about these people on this list because they're not allowed to be around children. So I've never been able to figure out how it was that school did not know that this man was a registered sex offender, photographer or not. He wasn't supposed to be there. And apparently he's been taking pictures at that school for quite a while. But that's another instance where things are slipping through the cracks. Like, how did you not know that? Not to say that he was in there doing anything, but I don't care if he was a janitor or he came to clean the windows. If he's supposed to be around my kid and all these other kids, I don't want them around him. And he lived right off of Clearfield, out West Church.
And listen, there's a whole lot of kids around there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a whole little apartment complex with a whole lot of kids running around and playing all day.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Jabril, you had anything to add to that?
Yeah, just real quick. I mean, when I heard about that, I did a little bit of reading, and apparently they have a few child molesters that are held in the low security or the minimum security area of that prison. There's a couple of different camps and satellite camps and everything over there for the prisoners. Mm-hmm. So the guy that beat him up, he was apparently upset over the number of child molesters. Like you say, I mean, child molesters are like the lowest of the low. And when you get into jail, these inmates will target them out. They have ways of finding out who's in there for what. And child molesters are usually the first ones to get the business handed to them.
Yeah.
The part of some of the things I read is these security guards, these corrections officers were telling these people, the other inmates, that Jared Fogle, because he's kind of a celebrity, he was off limits and nobody was supposed to lay hands on him or anything like that. And some of these inmates took that as a challenge. Some people were saying, I read a couple articles saying that this guy has security rolling with him. Not security, but like bodyguards. Like basically he has the money. He's been paying people off to kind of watch his back while he's in prison. And I guess this guy took that as a challenge, and he won.
Yeah. And it's funny because I read article, probably one of the ones you read. Yeah, he was hiring other inmates to protect him. And basically the guy that attacked him was like, he's not the first child molester I've attacked. He said he's the only one I caught attacking. Because, like he said, when you walk into a prison where there's a child molester or a child killer, you know that if they find out what you're in there for, they're gonna like welcome you to the club, in many different ways. So you understand that. And that's why he wanted protection, because he understood that once he walked into that situation, he was no longer safe. No matter no matter whether or not it was maximum or it was minimum, it was going to happen. And it's just like you can't do stuff like that. You understand that it's karma. You do this, so this happens to you. Yeah.
It's definitely karma. You feel me? But I just believe
kids are defenseless. They don't know. Like they you're looked at as somebody that they respect. And you do so, like you cross that line, and that's what happens, And I have a total disdain. I think anybody that molests or rape or kill a child, you need to be. If you molest them or rape them, you need to be castrated, and if you kill them, then you need to be gone too. That's just how I feel. Cause that's just a defenseless kid who can't defend themselves. You choose to harm them, or like Clint said, that lives with you. So I just think you need to be castrated. That's just my personal opinion.
And I agree with you.
I mean,
I hold no sympathy. You feel me? Like I hold no sympathy for none of them. Like ain't no get help. If they can't get help, you feel me? That's in them. that's going to be in them forever. You know, so, you know what I mean? It's like you can't help them, in my opinion. Like, they're always going, and, you know, some things, you know, we always talk about forgiveness and stuff like that. For me, some things are unforgivable. You know, you can't forgive everything. And I can't forgive them for that. I can't forgive him for that. So, you know what I mean, whatever happens to him, happens to him. You know what I mean? I think they should be punished to the fullest extent of the law. You know, if I'm being too harsh or too, you know what I mean, too whatever, like, so be it.
Not at all.
Yeah, that's what I believe should happen.
And it's crazy because when you think about other countries and stuff, you know, they do stuff like that. They stone them to death. They burn their genitals. They got a whole bunch of people outside beating them to death. You know what I'm saying? They go off. But then you hear and you see people thinking, you know, in other countries, oh, United States is the land of the free and this, and that. Literally, they're too free here. They get away with too much stuff here. But, you know, if it was, if I was president and people did stuff like that, I'd be like, listen, let's have a relationship with Russia. Yes, because they ain't having that over there. So listen, when we get a couple of, you know, situations where these people are doing this to children, I'm sending them over there to you. You know, I'm sending them over there to put them in a prison like a Guantanamo Bay type thing, you know. But you're free to do whatever you want to do. I'm turning them over to you. Yes. Because over there, the punishment will be severe and it will be swift. There are countries where when we do stuff with kids, they killed you that day. Like, that's it. They're like, this is the trial. You're guilty. We don't need to get sentenced and all that. The punishment for this is death, and it will be tomorrow at 9 a.m. Matter of fact, we free tonight at 8:30. So, you know, if y'all free, y'all can go ahead and handle this. You know, and it's just kind of like you come here and you're like, wait, what? That's insane to me. But then you'll have drug dealers that get sentenced to way more time unless the kid is mutilated, killed, kidnapped, you know, something that just you know, not that, you know, molesting them doesn't turn your stomach, but something that just makes it even worse than them just also just, you know, molesting or raping them. It's like they get a slap on the wrist and then they're out back here again. Oh, but he has to register, you know, for the next 10 years. Like Jersey has tiers. Here in the DMV, they don't have to. In DC, they don't have tiers. If you're on it, you're on it. You know, but in Jersey, they have different tiers. So those tiers need, you know, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, whatever the case may be, or you know, they got to stay on there for life. Okay, but then they come off and then what? That doesn't change who they are. Yeah. I mean, that's too much. Yeah, and that's why I think like when you see people over in other countries, they always say our prisons are easy. That's why, I agree with you, Ken. You need to ship them over there for them. I'm just saying.
Ship them over there. Y'all do what y'all want to them. Please don't worry about that. Y'all good. Do what y'all want.
Denounce citizenship. Yeah, make them citizens somewhere else where they not having that, man. No. Yes. Yes. All right, guys. I guess are we done with that topic? Yeah. All right. So I'm going to go to my topic. I had a topic and I'd like to change mine. So I would like to talk about it's kind of relevant to one of the conversations we had earlier with the social media and everybody recording things for social media, whether it's a fight, whether it's teachers attacking and cops and this, that, and the third. I kind of want to touch base because I saw in the news this week about now that they're going to pass a law where you have to tell a police officer or a police officer that you're videotaping them, whether they're stopping you or things of that nature. You can't just record them. I kind of thought about that, and then, you know, with every time something happens in the world, it's always recorded. It's just like certain things shouldn't be recorded and posted on social media, but people just do it, especially like we see on social media. You can go on social media, TMZ, media takeout, and find fight scenes and things of that nature. And it's just getting out of hand. And I just think that people need to use better judgment when recording things and posting things to social media. It's one thing to record a crime and put it out there not even put it out there on social media, but to send it to the right authorities and let them handle it from there. But it's just so much going on. I remember last week I was on my Facebook, and this
girl posted a video of this girl getting attacked in a corner store with her minor child there, and people were like sharing it, posting it. It's like, at what point do you stop? Like, at what point do you stop recording and get somebody help? Like, it was so many people in the store watching this happen, and it took for a man that probably didn't even know this girl to kind of get her child, because the child was screaming and crying, and her mom was being attacked, and people are recording it and laughing and, you know, like, oh, go ahead, so-and-so, and it's just like, at what point do we stop that? Like, it's just getting out of hand. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, well, personally, I think it seems like this is the era of recording. Everything has to be on video. Let's laugh about it. Let's post it. I mean, and it's happening everywhere. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like we're now in that era where technology is controlling everything. Why that's the first thing people do is go ahead and look at it and record it? Who knows? But that is a psychological thing, you know, that people are used to seeing that stuff, you know, where that's the norm for them. So nobody's thinking about getting help, because now you're in an area where, you know, people don't snitch, they don't tell, whether it's somebody getting shot or obviously now somebody getting beat up in front of their kids. So I mean, it's a vicious cycle. I mean, I don't even know what else to say about that. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I'm just like, at what I remember, I don't know if I told you guys a while back. My daughter was, and I know you guys probably heard about it at one point. My daughter goes to the school over there, and it's right near like the little canal. And it was on the winter time, and these kids were like bullying this kid, and they threw his backpack onto the icy river. And the boy went to go get his backpack, and then he fell into the river. People are recording it, and my daughter came home and was telling me, and I flipped out on her. And she was like, why? I yelled at me. And I said, well, why would you stand there? You could call 911, do something. Don't just. She's like, well, I didn't have a phone. I couldn't do. You could have ran to school and told a teacher. And she got, like, real defensive about it. But it said, like, at what point do we tell our children not to stand there and be a part of the situation, be a part of the solution, and go help? Like, I told her, because how would I feel if I got to hit that call that you were suffering from hypothermia because somebody did X, Y, Z to you, and people sat there and recorded?
I think it's all about going viral. We're in an age now where everything, you know, everything's being recorded, being watched everywhere we go, and people trying to get famous instantly. You feel me? They think it's cool, you know. So it all started with, you remember them videos back in the day, like the world's craziest, and I show you everything type stuff that happened, people getting shot, you know, people plane crashes. I remember the one where the dude tried to, he tried to jump out the airplane, and his parachute ain't open, and he just hit the ground, boom, and they video recorded it and everything. It was like everybody was like, oh, but ain't nobody go help or see what was wrong with him. You feel me? So now, since everybody got a camera in their hand, you feel me, a video recorder in their hand, you feel me, as far as your phone, you know, now they trying to do the same thing. You know what I mean? Or imitates life. So it's just people now, I mean, it's just cut the middleman out. Instead of going watching somebody else's video, let me record it. You know what I mean? Ain't nobody really trying to help nobody. You know, them good Samaritan days, them days is over. You feel me? It's World Star now. Feel me? Everybody trying to get on World Star. You feel me? I mean, that's facts. It's like, you know, you see a fight, you know how it was back in the day. You know, I know how each trainer was like, it was a fight. That was one, let's go. Everybody wants to see the fight. You feel me? So now, it's the same thing, just cameras involved. So now, you can't catch that L in front of that camera. It's going to be World Star. You feel me? So that's all it is now. People just try to get famous or make people look stupid. You feel me? Not realizing they the ones that's looking stupid. That's how I go.
Mm-hmm. That's a problem. I think we had talked about this. I don't think we talked about it on the show. I think it was between us. Somebody sent a video of the girl fighting, and she had her kid with her.
Yeah.
We were talking about that, and I'm like, you know, first of all, you walked up on somebody in the store. Somebody walks up on you in the store, and there's more than one of them, and one person has a phone and they're recording you, you know something's about to go down. So these people out here, like Clint says, they're all worried about world star, trying to get internet famous or be the first one to have that video out. It's a good and a bad thing to it. It works both ways. For example, everybody, I'm pretty sure has heard about this Cat Williams fight that he punched a little boy earlier this week. Well, they only showed part of that video. And that goes back to me talking about the whole thing with school. You only see the aftermath. You don't see the whole thing. But if you would have saw the whole video, I believe Clint had posted it or he tagged me in it. Cat Williams is out there, chilling with the kids, playing soccer in the neighborhood, and somebody unfortunately recorded the whole incident. He was out there playing soccer with the kids, and the little boy, kept coming up to Cat Williams and staring him down, all kind of things. And the part that a lot of people saw was the aftermath where Cat Williams told the boy to get out of his face, and he was like, he'll do something, all of that other stuff, and that's eventually when Cat Williams hit him. But if you go 2 to 3 minutes before that, you would see Cat Williams is out there minding his business, playing soccer, interacting with the kids, and the little boy came up on him. Not saying it was right for him to hit the boy, but hey, somebody's trying to make a fool out of Cat Williams. It didn't have to be him. It could have been anybody. And to bring it back to the original subject, I think you said recording the police. It's not completely illegal. I know I did read up and it said there are a couple of states that says it's illegal to record police from a certain distance. Some states have laws out there where you need consent in order to two-way consent. It's a two-party consent where both parties have to be aware that you're recording them. You can't secretly record the police. But a lot of these videos that are out there, people get pulled over and they have their cell phone sitting in the cup holder or wherever, and they're recording the police. Or even if you're just walking down the street. I saw a video earlier of a guy walking down the street, and the cop ran up on him and asked him, what was he drinking? He was minding his business, walking down the street. Cop pulls him over, and fortunately he was recording it, so he got off. But it's kind of crazy. You can record the police. Some places it's illegal to record the police, but without these videos and things like that, a lot of these cops would get off with doing some stuff that they really shouldn't be doing. So
even with videotape, they can get off without doing stuff that shouldn't be done.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, a lot of these cops are getting off. Even when the video comes out, a lot of these cops are still getting off with and it's that one famous line that they use. I felt my life was in danger. And, I mean, we all know that's not 100% true all the time, but it's just crazy. Everybody wants to be famous. Everybody's trying to be the first one to get out here and videotape this stuff happening instead of actually helping out the situation. They're actually out there hurting themselves or hurting other people, because instead of trying to videotape it and put it in your phone and post it on social media, you should be out there trying to stop some of these things. But people don't see it that way nowadays. Everybody has a cell phone with a camera, and they want to be the first one reporting or spread it on social media. And I just think that's crazy. That whole situation is all messed up.
Yeah. Well, guys, we got a couple minutes till the after show kicks in. We want to remind you guys that you can come in and join in our discussion. The number is 657-383-1155. Like I said, in a couple minutes, maybe about 6 more minutes, the after show will kick in. We're going to let loose, relax, take it down a notch, and talk about whatever the heck pops up in our head. We got a couple things that we want to touch base on the after part. After party. Who got off on me? Somebody, I won't mention their name, but the after show.
After party, after show, same thing.
yes, after same thing. We just get silly, get a little loose, throw shade as some of us do very well. I ain't gonna mention their names, but we're a little shady right now. But yeah, definitely check out our website, gscradioshow.com. Like I said, you're listening in now. You're listening to blogtalkradio.com/gscradioshow.com. And we want to thank you guys for listening thus far. Do you guys want to say anything before we hit the after party?
No. I'm ready for these topics, though.
Ready?
Definitely. We got some good things to hop into. I mean, we was all over the place with this one, but we all were able to talk about some good stuff. But we got some even more better things coming up in this after show.
Yes. Definitely. I hope you guys are registered to vote. want y'all to know that. I just really want y'all to be registered. So if you're not registered, get registered. It's very easy. It's very easy. You can go online and register to vote. Just get that done. But like I said, don't be shy, guys. Definitely call in. Your number again is 657-383-1155. How you guys?
We definitely gonna touch on Chris. We definitely gonna touch on Chris Christie in the after too, and that AC situation. You feel me? Yeah.
About to be a problem.
Yeah, because AC about to shut down. Yeah, know what I mean? He coming like he don't care. Know what I mean? Like you feel me? Either you gonna do it my way, or it's a wrap. It's a wrap. That man destroyed this state.
Do you honestly think he cared? Like, come on, like these last couple of months, since he's been doing on his tour, trying to run for president and not being around when things hit Jersey. You had storms and blizzards and hurricanes and all other kind of things, and this dude's out here vacationing and partying and chilling with Trump, and he stopped caring a long time ago. He
definitely, guys. I wanted that question. I just had a question I posed to y'all earlier this week. I know I talked to y'all about that, but I definitely want to bring that up in the after show. But yeah, definitely, you guys got to tune in to the after show. It's gonna be raw and uncut. You gotta listen.
Oh gosh.
Why you say, oh God? I'm awake now. I'm awake.
Raw and uncut.
But before we get in that after show,
you say things that get in your head. You just go along with the flow.
Before we get in that after show, I just want to reiterate. You know what I mean? Death to all child molesters out there. You feel me? Like that's why. I just want to put that out there. I just want them to know exactly how I feel about that situation. You know what I mean? Like I believe, they should be a population that sick the wolves on. No protective custody, no minimum security prison. Feel me? Straight get done to them what they did to the kids.
No. We should put them in gas chambers like Hitler did. Put them all in gas chambers. Just send them off to the gas chamber. All together. There you guys go. Nah, but I think today's show was very good and very interesting. I like today's show. I liked it. You guys liked it?
Yeah, it was good.
Like I said, we was all over the place, but we got some good topics in. Everybody was able to talk about some good things.
Well, shoot. Social media is all over the place. We got to try to pick and choose which one is the most popular, which one to talk about. I mean, it was a lot, but there was some, like the ones we chose to talk about tonight. There were just some of the more obvious ones, that just kind of, they either keep happening or it's one of the things that you go, what? That happened? So we were definitely all over the place, but it also goes to show what's going on out there. That's all over the place as well.
Yeah, even they actually you know what bothered me too, watching the Brussels attack and watching their video of people screaming. It's just, I mean, I guess they wanted us to see what they were going through, but even like that bothered me. I don't want to see one of the see a lady holding on to her, I believe it was her son, for dear life, and running for her life, and it's that's on the news, and that's hard to see because I don't, it makes you think, what would you do in that type of situation? This world is going crazy. Yeah, it's going crazy. It's just that some things I just don't think we need to be seeing, or they need to warn us this is going to be sensitive issues. If you don't want to watch it, leave the room or something. It's that's on us to see. But guys, the after show is about to start in less than 1 minute, so we're going to welcome you to it. Again, give out the number 657-383-1155, and we are GFTRadioshow.com. Check us out. Check the website. Look us all up. You guys want to give out Twitter addresses or names?
No,
so
we can do that in the after show. We can do that in the after show.
Okay, I thought we just had more of a minute, but okay. So we're getting ready to join, guys. But y'all ready?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, we are officially in the after show. Welcome, guys. Welcome. So what's the first thing going to pop up? What's on you guys' minds for the after show? What's the first topic?
Can I bring up something?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So I listen to a lot of radio when I'm working. I was on my way to work earlier this week, and I caught the back end of it. But in New Jersey, there's a senator out there who's proposing the bill. Let me give you a little bit of backstory. This is how the article started. In 1974, there was a teenager who was ejected from a judge's courtroom. You know, he got all upset and everything, so he left the courtroom and he came back and he wound up firing a gun into the courtroom. He wound up shooting and killing the judge. There was about 50 people in the courtroom who just all stood there just like shocked, you know, didn't know what to do or say. Like I said, this was back in 1974. There's a senator out there who wants to make sure that this doesn't happen again. I thought that was kind of funny, you know, to hear that this happened back in 1974 and he doesn't want it to happen again. What he's proposing is that state legislators, municipal court judges, and superior court judges obtain permits to carry handguns. And the only thing that they have to do in order to get this is complete 8 hours of safety training. This is a big issue because I don't know if a lot of people know, but it's damn near impossible to get a gun permit in New Jersey. You have to have a what they call a justifiable need in New Jersey, and that would mean that you have to prove to a local police department or a judge that the firearm is needed for personal protection. There's a lot of people in New Jersey who can't meet that requirement, and this guy is out here saying that he wants to waive that justifiable need requirement for these judges and things like that in order to get these permits to carry concealed weapons while working. Not even just while working, but just altogether. I find that to be an issue. We have people out here, myself, military-trained people. We have people of other backgrounds who have a lot of knowledge in firearms who can't get firearms, who can't get these permits because they don't have justifiable need. This guy right here is basically saying that these judges and these politicians have a higher what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, their lives are more important than everybody else's, is what he's saying. And we want to put guns in the hands of these judges and these politicians because of their position, basically. And I'm pretty sure, 90% sure, that this would not go good because these are judges and politicians, and the ones that they have to go through to get these permits are judges and politicians, mostly judges. Judges are the ones who had that final say in ordering these permits. And without having that justifiable need waiver in there, you're basically just saying, okay, you know, these judges, you go to 8 hours of training, and we'll give you a gun. And I personally have a problem with that. Like I say, myself, I can't get one. I've been in the military for 4 years, and I've had all kind of training on different weapons, handguns, rifles, grenades, all kind of things. And I can't walk into a courthouse and say, hey, you know, let me get a permit to carry. But he's up here saying that because these are judges and some kid back in 1974 wound up shooting the judge, that it's okay for these judges to carry weapons. You're not going to know who has a weapon, what judge is going to be in the courtroom with a weapon or not, but this is what he's saying. He wants to put these guns in the hands of these judges, and I personally have a problem with that.
I mean, I get it. You know, like I said, having worked in the court system myself, I've seen people lunge to attack judges. I've seen judges attacked many times, having worked in the system. But the thing is, when you talked about having, not you, but the proposed bill, you know, you talk about having a justifiable need. I do think they have a justifiable need. They are more likely to get attacked sitting up there as the judge, which is kind of weird, at least in my experience. I didn't often see lawyers being attacked, or the whole thing with legislators, that part throws me. Judges, I'm not so much against that because I've seen that. And I know we mentioned an example from 1974, but you remember the guy down in Atlanta that ended up reaching over and grabbing a gun for one of the sheriffs and shot and killed several people in the courtroom, including the judge. So I do think that they, especially in criminal cases, they do have a justifiable need to protect themselves up there. But when they mentioned that it was also for legislators, how many fights have we seen on TV with legislators when it was other legislators? I mean, it ain't like, yeah, you do have a couple people from the public that they, allow in there, but you have to be invited into a Congress meeting. You can't just walk in there. These legislators are out of control themselves. So you're going to have other legislators shooting each other because it's them fighting each other. It's not the public. But judges, I'm not so much against that. I get it, having seen it myself. I have a problem with the legislators. I don't understand what kind of danger they're in. Even though these legislators are crazy, I don't really understand what their justifiable need is for carrying the gun.
Don't these judges and everything, like, isn't there? I mean, you have court officers. You have most of the time you're in a courtroom. It's surrounded by police and everything like that. Don't these judges have some type of security? I mean, they have access to the police. They have. There's no. No.
And depending on how what's in there, like you have the actual I'm not sure what they call them in the courtroom, but you'll have security inside the courtroom or a sheriff inside the courtroom. Maybe one or two, but you don't. It's not like just a whole bunch of cops in there unless you got a high profile or somebody who is really dangerous or something like that in the courtroom. But once that person leaves, you might have one or two officers in there unless those officers are in there because they got cases coming up. But there's not always a group of officers inside that courtroom. There's been plenty of times where I've seen people, even in Baltimore City, well, he's in here for murder and the only person next to him is his attorney and there's nobody else there. You got a female, not to say that women aren't capable of protecting the judge or anything, but you got a female up here who all I see on her is a baton. So nobody in here even has a gun. The cops are out in the hallway because all their cases are done. So if there was no way for this person to have grabbed the gun from, his attorney at that time, but what if he had lunged over and tried to attack the judge and knock the woman down? Things like that do happen. But there's not always a presence in the courtroom.
I don't know. I was recently in the courtroom as early as last year, and I can count maybe 4 officers that were carrying in the courtroom. And it was like, I'm talking like hearings, even during the actual case, it was hearings. Up to the hearings, it was like 4 officers in there. And then to the case, it was 4 officers in there. There was 2 in the front, and there was 2 at the door, basically making sure that everybody came in and was orderly. And they stood there, and they would tell you, hey, you can't bring your phone, get off the phone, put your phone down. Like that.
The bailiff. But I'm sorry, I couldn't get that word out. Sorry, bailiff.
No, it's okay. But as I said, I'm with Kenya. I get judges. But I think that they shouldn't just be able to get past what everybody else. I think they should have to go through the same thing we have to go through too. And it will be easier to justify because they are judges. But I don't think that they should just get past everything else. Okay, go through this training and get done. No, I think they should go through the same thing any other in New Jersey will have to go through to be able to carry.
No, they're saying that they have to go through a course in order to do it. They are saying that.
Yeah, no, but 8 hours takes each 8-hour training course.
Yeah. Yes, I'm saying I want them to go through the same thing as if I was trying to get it done, or I was trying to get a license to carry a gun. I think that they should go through the same thing I would have to go through to get it. It shouldn't be just 8 hours of blah blah blah. If I have to do all this extra stuff, they should have to do that too.
I don't agree.
That's crazy.
I believe. Listen, correction officers are licensed to carry because why? They deal with prisoners in prison, and then them prisoners come home in the same area that them officers live in.
Yep.
Now, the person who is sentencing them is the judge.
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of dudes have beef with the judge. So I believe if the judge go through proper training, the judge, notice I'm only saying the judge should be, I believe, because he's a target. If one of these dudes criminals see a judge that locked him up and sent him away, and got a chance to get him, you think he ain't gonna try it?
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you think.
So you're saying that's
it?
his justifiable need is because he's a target, so because of his position.
That's what I'm saying.
It's just it's the same reason I believe a correctional officer should carry a gun or have a license to carry, because that's the thing, the license to carry. I have my gun permit, but my gun permit I can only keep mine in my home. If I'm traveling, it can't be loaded. All the rules got to be separated and all that type of stuff.
Yeah,
what I mean? They're talking about, concealed carry or open carry. In Jersey, in other states, you can open carry all day. It don't matter.
Right?
You feel me?
Huh? In PA, you can openly carry it, right?
I'm not sure if you can open carry in PA. I know it's easy to go get one. It's that the rules is not as tough. I know down in Miami and stuff like that. A lot of those southern states you can open carry, so it really ain't an issue down there. But in Jersey, the rules so strict, a lot of dumb rules or dumb laws for no reason. I can understand why a regular citizen would be upset. It's like, my life is just as valuable as theirs. But but we're not. We're not a target. Anything can happen to us. Yeah, we can be robbed. We can be shot randomly. Yes. But most of our jobs don't put us in a position to become a target. You see what I'm saying? I feel like as a judge, your job, you're dealing with criminals. You're dealing with killers, rapists, all these type stuff. So I kind of get it. I'm with Kenya on that. As far as the legislators and stuff like that.
Let me ask you this. I work for Comcast. People hate Comcast. Now, if you see me, up on the pole disconnecting your cable, or you run up out on me with a gun because I'm disconnecting your cable, is that justifiable need for me to go out and get a permit to carry? Because my life is at risk because I'm cutting people's cable off. People get shot over that.
You ain't right for that, yo. You ain't right for that.
Let's say I need me done because I work in payroll, and when your check's short, you yell at me and you threaten me all the time.
It's funny you brought that up. You know what happened? One of my neighbors, they were getting their water cut off. Because they just moved in the house. It really wasn't their bill that they had to pay. But they got to come cut that water off until the landlord paid that bill. So they came out here like squad deep. They wasn't aggressive or nothing or anything. But I know the purpose of why they came out here deep. Like they're all black dudes in trucks or whatever. The purpose was because they know how people react to stuff like that. When you get your water cut off, when you get your electric cut off, they know how people react. So it was like it was squad deep, but we knew them and they knew us, and it wasn't it wasn't no issue. It wasn't no situation. But at the end of the day, that's not a job to where I feel as though you need to carry a gun. Because at the end of the day, your water or your cable's getting cut off because you ain't paid that bill, or that bill didn't get paid. That's not on me. You feel me?
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. Doing this to you. You did this to yourself. You feel me? And it's these are luxuries. These are luxuries. Cable, water, all that. These are luxuries that they're providing. You feel me? At the end of the day, you don't need cable. You feel me? Even electricity. To be quite honest, you feel me? They don't really need to give you electricity. You could live off some candles and some flashlights and do whatever you got to do. But these are, I'm serious. You feel me? These are luxuries. People just starting to take these things for granted. You feel me? Like people got this, like this, I'm supposed to have this. Like, no, you're not. No, you're not. It's a luxury.
You're supposed to pay the bill.
You're supposed to pay that bill. When you court system, you did a crime, and this man about to send you away for some time, take times off your life. That's much more serious. You feel me? Especially if you feel that you were being jerked in the courtroom. You know what I mean? You know how some of these judges are. Some of these judges are asses. You feel me? So, you know what I mean? And they can be very, very disrespectful. Municipal court judges are very, very disrespectful. Disrespectful when you're going in just for a speeding ticket. You know what I mean? Sometimes you want to punch that judge in the face, like, yo. You know what I mean? Like, for real. Now, I mean, I worked out a deal with the.
Then they talking about carrying the weapon too.
That's why they about to get these weapons.
Yeah, well, I you know, and even with the state how it is now, you got people, the people that walked into that social services building and set it off. Like, you know, it be like, I mean, situations like that, people feel like their life is in danger. Like, you know, this miscellaneous things. Like, I know I work in payroll, I get threats every day about stupid stuff. I just look at them like whatever. Like, you know, I had somebody actually say they wanted to choke me because they didn't feel as though I didn't answer the question the way they wanted me to answer it. But, you know, I mean, in a lot of spaces you get people being hostile, but in certain situations, like Clint said, like judges or cops and COs, so that I think they should be able to carry it. But I just think that you shouldn't be able to, like, you have to go through what everybody else has to go through. Not special treatment, or you can get a gun if you go through this for 8 weeks. So you need to go do what we have to do, prove that you need it. And if you said, you know, check it out, you were a municipal court person or this, that, and the third, yes, then you probably get bumped up quicker and get this stuff done quicker. But I just think that you should have to go through the same route as a normal person or a normal president to have to go through to get their carrying permit.
Be clear. I think everybody should be able to own a gun and carry a gun. Personally, that's how I feel. Not everybody. You know, like, you know, if you're mentally stable, you feel me, no criminal record, I believe you should be able to own a gun and carry. That's just mine.
Thing, though. Maybe before, you used to have to wait 72 hours before you were issued a gun. Like, they took their time with you know, completing that 730 exam that they do when you go apply for a gun. Not that you can't, if you knew you weren't going to pass it, get somebody else to get a gun for you in their name. But the fact that they don't even do that is alarming. Like, how do you just cut that out and all of a sudden somebody gives you their name, or, you know, I mean, when I went, I gave my name. I mean, I gave my social. They ran it. They came back. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not expecting to pick anything up or pay for anything that day, because I was still thinking there's a waiting period. Sometimes it's 24 hours. You know, sometimes it's literally like a couple minutes. Like, I gave him my stuff. I left, came back a couple hours later. We were like, oh, yeah, I was waiting for you. I don't know how long he was waiting, but I'm like, well, dang. For real? That's crazy to me. I don't understand that, because, you know, like you said, if it's that quick, I'm wondering what it is you're not checking.
Yeah.
That before it took 3 days, and now you're telling me it literally just took, I don't know, minutes, an hour. I have no idea how long it took. I just know he said, oh, I was waiting on you. I'm waiting for you to come back in. Like, seriously? You was waiting on me? Like, that's crazy to me. That's because how extensive was it before?
Yeah.
I watched this YouTube video with a guy. He was in Pennsylvania. He got out his car. The video was how long it took me to get the gun. It was less than 10 minutes. He got out the car, walked in, showed his ID. The man went to the computer, said, I just got to do a quick background check. Just like that, he came back, you're clean. He was like, all right, let me buy this. It was like a semi-automatic weapon. Boom. That quick, walked out the store. You feel me? Like, to me,
like, what you want on your lunch break? Oh, I went to go buy one. Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, exactly. Shouldn't it be that you can only buy a certain type of gun? I'm not a gun person. I have all these types of guns and miscellaneous stuff. But, like, I would think when you try to get a permit to carry a gun, shouldn't you get, like, a gun, like, let's say out in the country or the Wild West or something. So you just get, like, a standard handgun?
I mean,
whatever you kind of coin in your pocket.
Like you can't go in there and buy a sawed-off shotgun, right?
Yeah, like you shouldn't be, you know, you're not technically legally allowed to walk in, you know, and purchase certain guns. Of course not. However, you know, if I got a gun shop, and I can legally sell it to you, and you got the coin in your pocket, you can buy it.
I'm gonna let you get it.
That's
my thing is this.
Trying to understand, like, what can you...
Oh, no, that's really none of my business what you about to use that
Let me get
for.
this type of gun. I passed this test. Can I get a sniper gun with a scope thinking? Like, what the hell you need that for?
First of all, who's asking somebody who's buying a gun with a scope what you about to do with that? I'm not asking that question. Let me go ahead and ring you up. I do think that certain purchases should be reported, though. Because if I'm looking at your address and you live in an urban area, I'm just trying to figure do you work for the DEA, cop, anybody? No? I'm just trying to figure out why you buying that gun. But I'm not going to ask him why he's buying it, but I do think certain purchases should be reported. If I buy a vehicle and it's more than $8,000, I think it's $8,000. It was. That has to be reported to the IRS if I'm using at least that much in cash. But I can go up here and buy a gun with a silencer and you know, legally or illegally, depending on where you are, and that don't have to be reported. Why not?
So hold on. I'm going to ask you a dumb question. I'm going to ask you a dumb question. So when you purchase a gun, can you have to use cash or can you swipe a card?
Yeah, that was a dumb question. That was a dumb question.
Oh, I'm just thinking, you know, some things you I don't know.
That's quite
I sound a little stupid, but I really don't know. That's why I'm asking, so I'm sorry.
I mean, it's easier to trace if you use card because that's card information. You know, if you come in here and buy a gun outside of his or her word saying that you bought it and the paperwork that you got to fill out and things of that nature, you know, I know who came in here. I don't know if they still have that gun. I don't know where that gun is once it walks out of this door. They're going to be held responsible, but, I mean, ain't nothing you can do once they realize it.
Me and my friend was talking earlier, and it was crazy. We was talking about this because we was watching something on it's a show called Undercover Inc. And they was showing how the dude was selling illegal guns, and he had like a SK, HK, he had like a AK-47 pistol as well. My boy was like, "See, man, that's evil." Like that. It was ill. AK-47 pistol. You know what I mean? He was like, "That's evil. Like, why do you need that? Like, you don't need that. All you need is like a shotgun or a rifle for hunting, and a handgun for personal protection." You know what I mean? And I was like, I agree with him. That's how he feel. I agree with him to an extent, but I was like, you know, they make he was like, why they make guns like that? I said, you know, for the military, army, and stuff like that. And
The Walking Dead, man.
You feel me?
You know what? I can't.
Hey, you feel me? And to feed to feed them little wars that they be having going on in all them countries. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The people be needing guns. So, you know what I mean? They create them guns because the man with the biggest gun is you feel me?
Right.
He running. He gonna run it. You know what I mean? Jabril to me is he's the go-to guy on this one. What type of guns do you think we should be allowed to have and not allowed to have as citizens?
As citizens, I mean, you should have a basic 9 mil Beretta, whatever you want, and maybe it doesn't have to be necessarily a fully automatic assault rifle, but I mean, basically, we carry M16s, which are basically the same thing as the what are the other ones? M16s are the ones that the military carry, but there's a civilian one. It's basically the same thing as an M16. Anything other than that, I don't know who you're trying to take down. You walking around with choppers and Tommy guns and all this other stuff. Like, who were you trying to take down? Like, we not out here fighting no dinosaurs or nothing. Like, you get a 9 mil and a basic assault rifle. That's all you need. I mean, these people out here hunting with the shotguns and everything. That's all good. You can have your shotgun. That's if you live out in the country and sticks and you're out there hunting deers and turkeys and just shooting some cans in your backyard. But anything other than that, you don't need no extended clips. You don't need no scopes. You living in the city and you pulling up with scopes and stuff like that, there's a problem. You need a basic handgun. All you need is a handgun. You don't need none of that
what was
extra
that
stuff.
gun that they were coming out with where they said a bullet was going to, like, turn the corner or some nonsense? It wasn't an AK. It wasn't an AK. It was, this was probably about 3-4 years ago. They were coming up with this gun that was supposed to be a military issue and for cops, where but they were talking about it in the sense of, you know, the mob and all that kind of stuff. And it did have a silencer on it, but the magazine was actually, the extra magazine, extended clip actually, was on the top of the gun. It was like some weird techie stuff or whatever. But when I thought about it, I'm like, I know they just like coming up with this idea and trying to, you know, format this gun and all that. But how exactly would you make a bullet turn the corner? I just, like, it was like, it was a gun where you could actually, like when you have a scope, you know, those are easier to shoot. You can actually hit your target dead on if you know what you're doing. It was like you could actually, this gun would see through walls of a certain depth or whatever, and, you know, you could shoot through this wall, but you could see the target. So it was as if whatever was going on with this gun, it saw through walls, you could see who the target was, but it wasn't like if I was going to shoot Little Ray Ray. Now, I couldn't see Ray Ray's face, but I hope that whoever I'm shooting in the shadow that I'm seeing, this hot spot, is him, because I can go ahead and point this gun there and say, this is who I want you to shoot, and it shoots them.
Kenya was watching Wanted last night, weren't you?
Huh?
Kenya was watching Wanted, Curving Bullets with Andy Lee.
No, man, I'm telling you, I've seen it. They when they were talking about it, I'm like, wait, what?
I seen the one when the barrel.
Like, that sounds like some Terminator type gun.
I seen the one to where, you know how, you know, say it's like a say you got like a AK-47 or something, but you know how the barrel stick out, it turn, and on top of it, like they got a little camera.
Yeah.
So you can look at the camera and turn the top of the thing, and it can shoot around the corner. I seen that on the Discovery Channel.
Mm-hmm.
No, I seen that on the Discovery Channel. I seen that type of gun. Now, directing the bullet through something, now that's crazy. That's next level.
That's what I said. I'm like, who would need that? I mean, they were just talking about it. Like, they had the, you know how architects use the machines and they're drafting up buildings and stuff like that, the blueprints and everything? It was like that. Like, the guy was illustrating it and how he was going to put it together and how, you know, all this other kind of stuff. And I'm like, I would like to see this gun in person when it's done. I don't understand who would need that, but that's some 007/009/0010 type thing. Like, why would you need that? I mean, you needed that gun when they went to go look for Osama bin Laden. That was it. Other than that, why exactly would you need that? I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
All right, guys. Well, we got about less than 2 minutes left in the show. We want to thank you guys for listening, and we want to give out our Twitter addresses, our Twitter username, so you guys can follow us on Twitter and you can give out your information. Kenya, you want to go first?
Yeah, you can reach me on Twitter at REDD Raven609, or you can reach me on Facebook at Kenya Hutchins.
JRO609 everywhere. All you gotta do is Google me. JRO609.
Google him. Get out of here.
You can reach me at eTrentonGroomy on Twitter. You can hit me up on my blog at thekingstruth.com, or just hit me on our website, gftradioshow.com.
And I am Sunny. You can reach me at IamSunny_D on Twitter and on IG. You can hit my blog website, unreservedlyme.wordpress.com. Again, we want to thank you guys for listening in tonight and tuning in and, you know, just hearing us chat about the things that we had on our mind during our trending topics. You can check out our website, gftradioshow.com. We will be publishing this show on YouTube this weekend. Hopefully it'll be up before Sunday. If not, it'll be up by Sunday by 6 p.m. Thank you guys again for listening. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Stay sexy if you can. Well, God bless.